Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, and welcome to Big 12 Insiders. Thank you guys for showing up and showing out. Man, it was a wild weekend in the Big 12 this weekend, man. The top two teams, games literally came right down to the buzzer. Two big comeback victories for the top two teams. Showed some fight from the other teams in this conference as well, man, from teams that haven't won a conference game. So that just goes to show you the margin for error in the Big 12 right now, in my opinion, is razor thin. Just razor thin. Some people are going to tell you that means the conference isn't very good. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say that it means that the conference is competitive. But again, anybody can win in this league, man. I love it. I love it that way. We're going to break some of this down for you. So let's get started. Before we do, remember, as always, like, follow, subscribe, and continue to leave those comments. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, guys. We are still growing at a very, very rapid pace, and that's all because of you guys. But if you have not subscribed, make sure you do. If you know somebody who hasn't subscribed, make sure that they do. And continue to leave those comments, like I said, and hit that notification bell so you know when all Big 12 Insider stuff comes out. So let's get this thing going. So first things first, Friday night, football after dark, ESPN. I told you guys that Oklahoma State was going to pull out all the stops. I said Mike Gundy after a bye, look, they're going to play well. Oklahoma State played well. They gave BYU everything that they wanted and had the lead with 1 minute and 10 seconds to go. I think that's about all they can ask for. Ollie Gordon, he looked like Ollie Gordon. They made a quarterback change. Now, quarterback got hurt, and Alan Bowman came in, and Alan Bowman did some Alan Bowman things, but he wasn't bad. He wasn't bad. But look, BYU, I mean, first of all, BYU, their Achilles heel all year has been running the football. They ran for 255 yards. Now, I get it. Oklahoma State couldn't stop anybody in this chat from being able to run the football on them. But having said that, BYU hadn't been able to run the ball on anybody in this chat all year long. So for BYU to be able to come up with that game plan, I think was phenomenal. Jake Ratzlaff didn't play great. He just didn't. But he did when they needed to. I thought the biggest play, look, at the final drive, they went 75 yards, 1 minute, 3 seconds. And in the final drive, the biggest play was his scramble for 27 yards. At Oklahoma State, in man coverage, I'm like, what are you doing? Just have your back turned, and the guy's just running up the field, and then you couldn't stop him to get in. Give the credit to Oklahoma State for making this a fight. They could have easily laid down. Easily just went to BYU and just laid down. They did not do that, but BYU prevails. I mean, at some point, people around the country are going to have to start giving BYU credit. I don't know when that's going to be. Still not in the top 10. I don't know when that's going to be, but at some point, they're going to have to get their respect. They move on. Great victory on Friday night, 38-35. Moving on. Kansas. It looks like the Kansas offense is starting to wake up. It's not that they've played despicable or anything the whole year. Their defense has let them down. Hell, every game that they lost, they had to lead in the fourth quarter. And their defense, kind of gave it up on them. But they didn't turn the football over. And that had been Kansas's problem all year. They've been turning the football over. They didn't do that. Jalen Daniels had a pretty good day. Devin Neal, another 100 yards. But Kansas' defense, that was the story. 4 interceptions, 3 of them by Kobe Bryant alone. Look, Houston, 1 step forward against TCU, 5 steps back playing Kansas. It's just the way that it is. Give Kansas kids credit. Again, they're better than Houston, but this is another game where you could have said, yeah, Kansas, their season, they're giving up on the season. But you know what? They haven't. And they got a big one coming up against Kansas State this Saturday. If they get the ball rolling, again, I've said it all along, this Kansas team can be dangerous. They really can be dangerous. So good win for Kansas. Good win for Kansas. Next up, hey, man, Cincinnati is right in the thick of things in the Big 12, and nobody saw that coming, especially me. I give Cincinnati all the credit in the world, workmanlike effort. I understand that Arizona State was without their quarterback. They still got Cam Scattaboo. They still have him, but they held him to 75 yards rushing. He had 2 touchdowns, held him to 75 yards rushing. Not to mention Corey Kiner had 102 yards rushing of his own. A real workmanlike effort by Cincinnati in this win. Now, going on at Arizona State, look, I made a video yesterday of Kenny Dillingham basically calling out his kicker. And some of you didn't like the fact that I agreed with Kenny Dillingham, because I do. I mean, I'll say this. I don't think it's that productive to go embarrass the kid on national television for no reason. Having said that, we hold everybody accountable. Everybody gets held accountable. Why can't you hold the kicker accountable? He didn't call him by name, but he didn't lie. The kicking game was atrocious. You can't make kicks to give your team an opportunity to get to one score to go win a football game. All he did was tell the truth. Could he done it behind closed doors? Yes. Did he have to say they were having kicking competition? No. But this is big-time football, people. If we want to talk about and say that we're treating these kids like professionals and like adults because they're getting paid, and that's what all this huge argument is right now, talking about NIL, if they're getting money, well, they're not amateurs anymore. They're professionals. Well, if they are, then why can't you criticize this kid for not living up to his end of the bargain? I mean, it's just that simple. We'll criticize a quarterback for playing bad. We'll criticize a running back for playing bad. We criticize offensive line for playing bad. We can't criticize the kicker? That's all I'm saying. Could he have done it differently? Yeah. The thing that I hated worse is he came out with that BS apology afterwards, which I think he wrote it to be a BS apology. So I get it, but I don't even think he needed to do that. The bottom line is the kicking game, I don't want to say it cost him the game because they didn't do enough on offense, but you never know. You never know. And he didn't lie. He didn't lie. Gigantic game for Cincinnati, though, moving forward this Saturday at Colorado. Holy mackerel. I don't think anybody in Cincinnati could have dreamed of this type of scenario coming into the season. All the eyeballs are going to be on them because people love Colorado and they're going to be watching them. Either they love Colorado or they want to see Colorado lose. So everybody's going to be watching the game. And this is an opportunity for Cincinnati to put its best foot forward. Nobody in Cincinnati would have dreamed of this scenario at this game coming into the season. But they're here. Good for you, Bearcats, and good for you, Bearcat fans. Speaking of Colorado, they go on the road and they just smack around Arizona. Now, Arizona, we'll get to Arizona in a second, actually. Let's get to Arizona in a sec. Colorado did this. Their defense showed up. I mean, they didn't do anything spectacular on offense. I mean, they scored 34 points, but it was the defense. 7 sacks, held T-Mac to, 38 yards receiving? Yeah, 38 yards receiving. Colorado ran the ball for 155 yards. Just a real good defensive effort after being run over by Kansas State on defense. Kansas State just up and down the field running the football. You couldn't stop it. And to this week, to be able to stop everything that Arizona was doing, it's a good defensive effort. Good. And look, you can say what you want. I'm sure people will just say that Arizona's not good. And let's be honest, they're not. But Colorado, that doesn't matter. When teams aren't good, you're supposed to go dominate them, right? If you're a good team. If you're playing against somebody that's not as good as you and that's a bad team, it's your job to go dominate them. Colorado did that. Give them credit. That's all I'm saying. Just give them credit. They dominated a team that they were better than. And again, they didn't have to have some Herculean effort on offense to be able to overcome something. That's not what happened here. It was a physical domination. And I don't know how many times you can say that about a Colorado team over the last year and a half, maybe 1 or 2 times, but they did it on Saturday. Good for them. Again, gigantic game on Saturday night in Boulder against Cincinnati. It's got all types of repercussions and almost kind of a de facto elimination game because of tiebreakers. Because if Colorado loses, they've lost to Kansas State, who's in front of them in the conference, and they will have also lost to Cincinnati, who's in front of them in the conference. So by process of elimination, Colorado would be out. Cincinnati, on the other hand, if they lose, they have lost 2 conference games, one to Colorado, who would be ahead of them. They can still have Kansas State left on their schedule. So things, like I said, it's almost like a de facto elimination game. I'm not saying Cincinnati's just guaranteed to lose at Kansas State. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you put yourself behind the 8 ball because whoever loses this game will be behind the team that just beat them. That's all I'm saying. And quite frankly, I'm looking forward to the football game. I am looking forward to this football game. Next up, holy mackerel, the Baylor Bears. They completely wiped the floor with Texas Tech. Completely wiped the floor with Texas Tech. I have been screaming that I commended Baylor for not quitting. You know, they got beat at Utah. We understand. They're just not as good a team as Utah was at the time. Okay, at the time. We'll get to Utah here in a little bit later. They weren't as good. They get beat at Colorado. They just give up a Hail Mary pass, and they're defeated. Come out the next week getting smacked around by BYU in the first quarter. They have the ball with an opportunity to go win the game in the fourth quarter. They did not quit in that football game. They go to Iowa State, and for 2.5 quarters, they're putting up a fight. They got the lead, so they're putting up a fight. And then they just have not quit on the season. And the talent is there. And then you go to Lubbock and you just completely dismantle Texas Tech. Now, look here, Texas Tech fans. You have been after me for the last 3 weeks talking about I got to give Texas Tech credit. Got to give them credit. Oh, the slander of the Red Raiders just lives on the Big 12 insiders. Well, let me just say this directly to you. The way to get credit, not just from me, but anybody in the entire country, would not be to give up 59 points up to Baylor at home. I'll just say that. That is not the way to go get the credit that you deserve. I'll just say that. Now, is your season over? No, you still only have 1 conference loss. But if you can fix this defense, and we've seen it be good for a couple of games, it was not good on Saturday. You look at the rest of your schedule, big game coming up at TCU. Got to figure it out, man. Got to figure it out. Like I said, your season isn't over. There's opportunities that are still there. But if your defense is going to continue to play like this, yeah, you're not beating anybody. You're just not. You're not beating anybody. So, and I believe Texas Tech is better than that. So I'm sorry that I hadn't given you the credit that you deserved. But after Saturday, I think you know why. I'll just throw it out there and say that. I apologize. Iowa State, look here, man. Again, another game down to the wire. Iowa State wins a shootout over UCF. Again, 38-35. Rocco Beck just put Iowa State on his back. Now, look, he didn't have the greatest game. He threw 2 horrible interceptions. But he rebounded. He didn't stop playing. He put them on their back when they needed him most. He makes a drive, creates a drive, and goes down and helps win the football game. That's what leaders do. That's what big-time players do in big-time situations. Rocco Beck was that. I will say this about Iowa State, though. That run defense, look, UCF did wind sprints up and down the field on you. They did literally wind sprints, running for 354 yards. Come on. Now, I know you're going to scream that, well, they couldn't throw the ball. Well, they didn't have to. You know, they just ran up and down the field. And you're not – look, your schedule, I look at your schedule, there's a couple of tough games, so maybe not, I don't know. But if you continue to play defense like this or run defense like this, somebody's going to catch you. And you're not going to be able to make the plays at the end. UCF's defense just not any good, so you're able to make enough plays at the end to win the game. So I will give you the credit for coming back. But Iowa State, you got to play better. I would be venture to say that's probably going to be something that we talk about in the power rankings for next week or for tomorrow. We'll probably mention this, but who knows? Who knows? But again, I want to give credit for you because, again, you had every opportunity to lay down and you didn't. You won a game that maybe you shouldn't have won. I don't know. You had a ton of offense. Don't get me wrong. You combated giving up all those rushing yards. You had over 530 yards of total offense. Never thought I'd see the day that Iowa State would do that, but you know what? You had to. And that, again, that's what good teams do. When they have to make plays, they go make them to win the game. So complimentary football. Defense not playing good. Offense needs to suck it up. Good for them. UCF, you gave it your all. You gave it your all. You made the quarterback change. I commend you. But you got to throw the football. You got to be able to throw the football at least a little bit, you know. So, but again, until you can fix that defense, I'm just not sure how many games you're going to win the rest of the year, UCF. I'm just not sure. And then finally, look, the wheels have come off in Utah. The wheels have absolutely just fallen completely apart in Utah. Utah now, I get it. Cam Rising, not there. But come on. TCU's defense is not very good. We've seen it all year. It's not very good. And you couldn't run the ball. The people have been running up and down the field on them, and now Utah can't run the football any longer. They can't run it. They couldn't do a whole lot throwing it. Can't score any points. It's just the wheels have come off, and it's okay to say that. Just, I get it. It's not what everybody thought was going to happen. It's not what I thought was going to happen. It's definitely not what Utah fans, players, coaches thought was going to happen. But you're here. You're here. Now it's, what are we going to see from you the rest of the season? Are we going to see a team that says, this season's over. We're not very good. We're just going to go in the tank? I would suspect that's not what's going to happen, but kind of what happened on Saturday against TCU. Just went in the tank, couldn't do anything. But give credit to TCU Horned Frogs. After being embarrassed, and I do mean embarrassed, by Houston at home 2 weeks ago, get an off week, get back in the lab, fix a couple of things, and boom, here you are. Come out, you go on a road, and get a win that I would say 90% of the country didn't think that you could get. So good for you, TCU, for, again, not quitting on the season, not giving up. In this conference, anything's possible right now. It really is. I know you've got some tough losses. I get that. But the teams that you have these losses to aren't really going to be in the conversation when it comes down to winning the conference. So who knows? Who knows? Just keep playing. Just keep playing. Got a big one coming up against Texas Tech. Big game coming up against Texas Tech. So we'll see what happens here. But I want to commend TCU for fighting and winning a tough road game. That's a tough environment up in Utah, man. And for you to come out with a win under the circumstances, I think it's a real good win. And maybe you can write your season after that. Maybe you can do that. So, look, man, this conference is nuts. It's crazy. Like I mentioned at the beginning, razor-thin margin. Just razor-thin margin. The top two teams in the conference had to have fourth quarter, just down to the wire comeback. Not just a fourth quarter comeback, just last-second drives to go win football games, man, against two teams that, by all intents and purposes, aren't necessarily that good. That's how competitive this conference is. Again, some are going to tell you that means the conference is not any good. Okay, fine. Say it isn't any good. I tend to look at the other way, be a glass half full guy, and that the conference is just super, super competitive. So it's going to be another fun week coming up. Two teams are on a bye, but we got a big slate of games coming up this weekend. I can't wait for it to happen. I appreciate everybody. Thank you. Look, Power Rankings are coming out tomorrow. Make sure that you tune in. Again, follow, like, subscribe. Please continue to leave those comments and hit the notification bell so you know when all Big 12 Insiders stuff comes out. We appreciate you guys. Thank you. Love you. And I will talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.